Victor Wembanyama returns as the San Antonio Spurs end the Oklahoma City Thunder's win streak. Is the San Antonio Spurs here to stay? We'll talk about it coming up.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. I am your host, Khahil. I host the Locked On Pistons podcast. As my co-host, Danny Cunningham, he hosts the Locked On Cavs podcast, and we appreciate you guys checking out Locked On Game Night every single night. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, or not Locked On Pistons. I'm so sorry. I usually do Locked On Pistons podcast, but we're doing
head there too. Go to both. Go to both.
Locked On Cavs, but head over to Locked On Game Night and hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review, whatever you listen to your podcast platforms. But Danny, let's start off with, we had a really great NBA Cup night. Had the Knicks and Magic game. We had a fantastic game between the San Antonio Spurs and Oklahoma City Thunder, which is where we're going to start off. And later on, Danny will play Are You Drinking the Kool-Aid, which is something he hasn't done so far. Stay tuned for that. But let's start with this game between San Antonio and OKC. San Antonio wins 111-109. This is snapping the Oklahoma City's long win streak. They are now just 2 losses on the season. Woohoo. You know, everything. Sky's falling, I guess. Victor Wembanyama made his return in just 20 minutes of action. He had 22 points and 9 rebounds. He was, I thought, fantastic. But I want to get your thoughts. What was your biggest takeaways from this win from San Antonio as they move on to the next round of the NBA Cup?
Well, I mean, it obviously, as you said, it has to start with Wemby. In the first half of this game, because he was on a minutes restriction. He only played 21 minutes. I don't know exactly what the final tally was, but he was, as one is coming back from a calf injury like that. And in today's NBA, I think we have all learned you can't be too careful when it comes to these things. So my first thought was, like, in the first half when the Spurs were struggling without him on the floor, and I think he played 7 minutes in the first half, and like he looked good and the Spurs looked good, but I was also like, what was the point of bringing him back for this game if he's not able to actually contribute in the way that you would anticipate Victor Wembanyama being able to contribute? And then the second half rolls around, and what he did in the fourth quarter, what he did in the second half, this was, I thought, a fantastic win, obviously, by San Antonio, but I really thought that this spoke to the impact that even a limited Victor Wembanyama can have. Like, in that first half, he only played 7 minutes. The Spurs scored more points in those 7 minutes of the first half than they did the other 17 minutes of the first half when he was not on the floor. Like, that is the type of impact that he has, not only on them defensively, like that's how we think of him, but he just opens up everything for them on both ends of the floor. I thought his impact was incredible. I thought De'Aaron Fox did a lot of really good things. Stephon Castle continues to be impressive, but overall, just what a game and what a win by the Spurs, man.
Yeah, you go back to that first half, and those 7 minutes that Wemby played, the Spurs were a plus 20 in his 7 minutes. That is the only reason why they weren't getting blown out at halftime, because in those 7 minutes, they were so dominant in Wemby's minutes. We're going to talk about some of the other players as well. But we got to hear from Locked On Thunder host Rylan, who I'm sure is just going absolutely through it, having to suffer a second loss. Let's hear what he had to say about this loss.
Thunder play their worst game of the season. I mean, it was the worst game they've ever played this year. Could not hit from 3. SGA was forced into some difficult shots, had some uncharacteristic turnovers. Wemby just thoroughly outplayed. Chet Holmgren was a matchup problem the entire night. Nobody has flummoxed this Thunder offense the way that the San Antonio Spurs did tonight, and it looked rough. And still, the Thunder were in the game till the bitter end. It shows their wide margin for error, but also keeps up a trend that, shot variance being the great equalizer. The Thunder are going to open the door for teams, given how inconsistent they are from beyond the arc. Despite being a top 5 team in three-point percentage this year, they can still have nights like that. And whenever they do, if you can hit tough shots on the other end, if you can capitalize on open threes, which the Thunder defense typically concedes, you can beat them. It's easier said than done, but tonight the Spurs did it. They played excellent defense. They especially turned it on from the second quarter onward, and they never looked back. And the Thunder had their chances, couldn't capitalize, and the big problem was the big three. Shea, J-Dub, Chet, none of the three had a typical game, much less a great game by their standards. So in the end, the Thunder fall for the second time this season.
So before we go any further, are we both in agreement? No big deal for the Thunder. Like they're
I mean, they are 24-2. Like they could lose their next 4 games, and I'd be like, you know what? Who cares? It doesn't matter. Like this is one of the best teams I've ever seen. I think this is so much more. And like, sure, did they have the best night that they've had? Absolutely not. I mean, SGA still had 29 points, but only got to the line 4 times. Chet Holmgren was okay, not good from the floor. He did get to the line. Jalen Williams also okay. Like these guys didn't have great games. That's going to happen now and then. But I think that with how good the Thunder have been, Koo, I'm ready to just give the Spurs credit for this. Like, yeah, OKC had an off night. Let's not make this about that. Let's make this about the Spurs because the Spurs were awesome. And teams are going to have off nights over the course of 82 games, right? I've watched the team I cover have about 26 off nights so far this year. Time to time. Let's make this about how good the Spurs were, especially when Wemby was on the floor.
Yeah, so that's why I want to go with it. I just want to make sure and see maybe if you saw something with OKC that you want to talk about. But yeah, OKC's fine. They're the best team in basketball. They're crazy good. This doesn't really matter for me from their end. I want to talk about Wemby because obviously he's the main story. I don't want to minimize what De'Aaron Fox did. I thought Devin Vassell played a really good game, especially late in that game. He had a lot of clutch buckets. Stephon Castle had a really good game as well. I want to give all these guys credit, but there's one thing I watched in this game, and every defensive possession in the fourth quarter, because Wemby ended up playing a lot in the fourth quarter. I believe he played the final 5 minutes. He played 8 minutes, 8 of his 20 minutes in the fourth quarter. The way they lined up his minutes restriction was pretty weird, but it ended up making sense. They wanted him to be there for the majority of the end of the game, which ended up working out. In the fourth quarter, Wemby had 15 points, but it was something that was happening on the defensive end that was just so crazy to me. The entire fourth quarter, Wemby was just switching on the low man every single half-court possession. Didn't matter if he comes down and he's guarding Chet and Chet goes out to the wing. They were just switching the low man. He was always at the block switching with whether it's Castle, whether it's Fox, whoever is going up to the wing and guarding whoever his man was originally, just so he could stay towards the paint and just be a deterrence. And for the entirety of the fourth quarter, they weren't even taking shots at him at the rim. And it almost felt like they weren't even driving to the rim. Like they saw him there, simply having his presence at the rim. It made the paint completely off limits. They weren't even trying to get to the paint. It was crazy. Every possession, watching him switch low man and then see the Thunder just like, oh, we're just not going to try to get to the paint. We'll just take a midi. We'll take a three. We're not going to even try to get to the rim. He doesn't need blocks to show his defensive impact. Doesn't need stocks. Like, just watching that is some of the craziest stuff I've seen, that just simply having him on the floor around the paint. They're not even, I'm not saying attempting shots. They weren't even trying to drive. It was crazy presence.
And Koo, I think that's why every time I see, whether it's a coach or a player, say that somebody else is like the best rim defender in the league, I just roll my eyes because it's not true.
Shout out JB, I see.
Well, I know like JB has done this with Isaiah Stewart, and Isaiah Stewart's turned into a really good rim defender, but he's nowhere near the level of this, right? Like he does not have that effect on other teams. I cover Evan Mobley, who won Defensive Player of the Year last year. He does not have the impact that Victor Wembanyama has. The question only is he on the floor because of health reasons or not? Like that's it. It's full stop. Other than that, there's no doubt in my mind who the best rim defender in the game of basketball is, because it's not only that he's defending the rim. You know, teams so frequently to open up their offense, they want to get 2 feet in the paint because it gives them the ability to score, or it makes other teams have to help off of guys, and it creates open looks beyond the arc. Like that is to me, the key to a great offense is having guys that can get 2 feet in the paint and make really good decisions from there. It's like almost not worth getting 2 feet in the paint against the Spurs. Like you have to find other ways to do it. And that's when Wemby's on the floor. Like Luke Cornett, solid rim defender too as his backup, but he's not nearly the same deterrent that Wemby is. You can have a normal strategy, but when Wemby is out there, it's just like this, you have to completely alter the way that you play offense because he has that type of impact. And I thought the fact that they were able to do that against the Thunder and keep SGA off the free throw line, to me, was one of the biggest keys of this game. And speaking of free throws, Koo, I wanted to ask you if you noticed something. when Chet Holmgren missed those 2 free throws in the fourth quarter because he went to the line, I think 2 times. Wemby's reaction to Chet missing 2 free throws. The one was in clutch time. And like, I thought that was, kind of an appropriate reaction, maybe a little over the top. The other one was with like 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And Chet misses the front end of a pair of free throws. And Wemby just screams, yes.
Yep.
Like that the broadcast picked it up. I'm like, he does not like Chet Holmgren, man.
No. He was talking trash to that entire fourth quarter. He was talking trash to Caruso. He was talking trash to Holmgren. I love Wemby so much. He's so competitive and he talks trash nonstop and he backs it up. This was a great win for the Spurs. They move on to the next round of the NBA Cup, defeating the OKC Thunder. We'll talk a little bit more about the Spurs and their immediate future in the third segment for Are You Drinking the Kool-Aid? But coming up, Jalen Brunson sends the Orlando Magic home as they move on to the next round of the NBA Cup. We'll break down that game coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by ZocDoc. Guys, it's 2025, almost 2026, and those days of waiting for something to become a full-blown emergency before you see a doctor, they're over. No more walking it off for 6 months. No more pretending that weird shoulder stiffness is just sleeping wrong. It's time to take your health seriously, and ZocDoc makes that easier than ever because staying healthy is more than hitting the gym or eating right. It's about actually getting things checked out when something feels off. It makes it simple to keep your health a priority, even with a busy schedule. I've used it to schedule appointments quickly when I didn't want to have to wait weeks on end. It helps you stay on top of your health before something becomes a bigger problem. So stop putting off your doctor's appointments and get the care that you need. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA to get the care that you need today. So, I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On NBA Game Night one of your best listens and first listens of every single day, night. You listen to this late night, wherever you listen to this. Thank you guys for checking out Locked On Game Night. Go to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, go to whatever podcast platform, leave us a 5-star review. Again, that's my co-host, Danny. He hosts Locked On Cavs. Check it out. I host Locked On Pistons. Check out Locked On Pistons. Pistons are having a good year. If you haven't noticed, go ahead and check it out.
They are having a very nice year.
But that's not what we're here to talk about here. New York wins against the Orlando Magic 132-120. Jalen Brunson drops 40 points on 27 shots to send Orlando back packing and move on to the next round of the NBA Cup. Let's hear from Locked On Magic host Philip to hear how he's feeling after the tough loss.
This is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic here at T-Mobile Arena as the Orlando Magic end their NBA Cup run 132-120 against the New York Knicks, a game where they never really found their rhythm, never really found their defense, and never really found much of anything to make this a game. They did make it a game in the third quarter, took a brief lead, but very quickly the Knicks put the foot down and won this game. At the end of the day, that is what the Magic are going to learn from this. In championship level games and games with stakes and games with elimination like this, you got to find another gear. And look, the Magic know that. They've been in the playoffs. They've seen what this other gear looks like from Donovan Mitchell, from Jason Tatum, from Jaylen Brown. They saw what it looked like from Jalen Brunson, and the Magic just did not have that extra gear. Jalen Suggs had 25 points at the half, struggled with injury, had a hip issue in the second half. Paolo Banchero got to 22, 24 points, but it was not a clean game from him. He really, really struggled, and especially with Franz Wagner out, in games like this, in big games like this, the Magic need their star player to step up. That's what's missing. The Magic have to find a championship gear sometime before the spring if they want to do something big in the playoffs.
So, Danny, I want to ask you, let's start from the Orlando side. Tough game for Paolo Banchero. He did end up with 25 points, but if you watch the game, wasn't a great night for him at all. What are your thoughts on Orlando coming out of this loss with Franz Wagner sidelined for at least a few more weeks? With where they're at right now, how are you feeling coming out of this game about the Magic?
I mean, I don't think that this is a game that should define who the Orlando Magic are or like how we feel about them, especially when you consider that Jalen Suggs meant so much to them early. Like as PRR mentioned, Suggs had 25 points at half and he had that hip issue and he didn't finish the game. And he, even when he was playing in the second half, he looked like a shell of himself. Like he didn't look like a guy capable of having an impact because of that injury. So I look at Orlando and I think that I don't want to say that they're a piece away because I don't know that they are a piece away. But I also don't know that the pieces that they have necessarily coalesce as well as you would like them to. Like I have questions about whether they're better with Paolo Banchero or Franz Wagner as opposed to having both of them. Like I don't know that it's necessarily coincidental that they took off when Paolo left the lineup with that injury. And I have a lot of concerns about how they're going to look without Franz Wagner for however long he's going to be out with this ankle injury. But overall, like I'm not going to judge them based upon this game. I thought they played hard, but they ultimately, when they don't have Franz, when they don't have Jalen Suggs for the second half, when Desmond Bane doesn't have it necessarily going on, when Paolo has a rough game, like that's just not a formula for them that's going to win basketball games against good teams. That might not even win basketball games against bad teams, considering how many guys either weren't available or had off nights. So like, I don't necessarily read too much into this. I thought New York played well. I didn't think they played great, but ultimately, like, the Magic are a good team. I don't know that they're a great team, and I'm not sure they can be a great team either. I'm just kind of still searching for that answer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, over the last 10 games, the Magic looked like they were starting to find their gear. Over the last 10, they were 6-4. They had the 8th best net rating in the NBA. I thought they looked like when Franz was healthy and how they were playing, I thought they were looking much better. Desmond Bane obviously was turning it around and having some really great back-to-back, really, really clutch nights as well from him. And then obviously Paolo comes back and then Franz gets hurt. And now Jalen Suggs is dealing with the injury suffered from this game. Don't know if that's going to keep him out at all. He was only able to play 29 minutes in this game. In his 29 minutes, he was a +8 though. They were pretty good in his minutes. But I feel like I agree with you. I have questions about Paolo Banchero. I have questions about whether he actually can impact winning for them and whether they're actually better with him on the floor long-term or even in the immediate future. However, putting all that to the side, the Magic feel like they just continue to struggle with injuries. Injuries continue to just bite them to where it's like they can't get the answer that they want to get because they just can't get enough sample size that makes them feel comfortable within the sample size they do get. Like they have Franz, he's playing really well, but that's with Paolo out. Now, once Paolo gets back, okay, we're about to figure out if Franz and Paolo can continue playing well, then Franz goes down. Now it's like, okay, Paolo, you're working yourself back in. We need you to take another gear, step up with Franz out. Now Suggs goes down. It's just, it feels like the Magic are constantly dealing with something. And on top of the questions that we already have about whether the team's better with Paolo on the floor versus Franz on the floor, can they be at their best with both of them on the floor? All those questions combined with the injuries, it just makes it for a tough eval of the Orlando Magic. And that's tough because I do feel like they were starting to turn the corner the last like 2.5 weeks and start to play much better basketball. But I'm going to be interested to see after this game, how do they play without Franz and with Paolo leading the way, having to be that 1A guy? Will the offense continue to look as smooth as it did while he was out with Franz leading the charge? I'll be watching for that.
And I do think too, like for this team to get to its ceiling, those two have to be on the floor working together. Like, I don't think that if they get to their ceiling with one or the other, like that ceiling's not high enough. Like they could maybe be better, but they ultimately do have a higher ceiling with those two working together. I just have questions about whether or not that will happen. And the thing with these injuries, and we don't know a timeline for Jalen Suggs, whether or not he's going to miss time or not. I think it's important to denote that as we talk a little bit after midnight on Sunday morning, but you ultimately as a team, you need to have these reps. Like you need to have as a group, a healthy team, get the reps playing together, because ultimately for this team to be what it wants to be in April, May, and so on, they need to work on things in December and January and February. And the injuries right now, I think, are preventing them from doing that a little bit. And that to me is just like, it's not a red flag, but maybe an eyebrow raiser, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Let's go over to the Knicks side real quick, though. Jalen Brunson drops 40 points. Karl-Anthony Towns had a really nice game. He had 29 points. OG Anunoby had 24 points. He played 40 minutes in this game. And the Knicks come away with a win. The Knicks are another team that I was talking about recently on Locked On Pistons that really are playing extremely well over the last month or so. The last 10 games, they have the second best net rating in basketball. They have the third best offense in basketball, and they are 9-1 over their last 10 games. They have been playing incredible basketball. What did you take away from this game with how you're feeling about, as a person who covers a team in the same conference that is competing for the same stuff that the Knicks are competing for? How did you feel about the Knicks coming away from this game?
I mean, this is who I expect the Knicks to be. Like, I think that they're an awesome team. I think they have a lot of talent. Jalen Brunson is fantastic. He had a fantastic game in this one, as you mentioned, scoring 40 points, had 8 assists as well. was a +3 in his almost 40 minutes. Like, they've got a lot of frontline talent. All the questions I have about the Knicks are about their depth, but if they're fully healthy, like, this is a team that I think has a very real chance of coming out of the Eastern Conference. I think they're absolutely in that upper echelon group of teams with the most talented in the East, and they've had a very nice start to the season as they move to 18-7 overall. So I look at them and say, if they stay healthy, which in today's NBA is a gigantic if, they can be as good as almost anybody. They can be as good as anybody not named the Thunder. Let's just say that, because I don't know that anyone else deserves to be in that conversation right now. All of my questions about the Knicks are whether or not they can stay healthy. Like, that's it, because they have a lot of talent, I think.
Yeah, I thought, I should say, I think that the job that Mike Brown has done with them has been incredible, especially offensively. Now, for a moment last year, there was a brief time last year that they were a great offense, and they were one of the best offenses in basketball, but it started to get a little bit more up and down as the season went on, especially with the starting lineup. The starting lineup was not very good for them at the end of last season, really since January of last season. It wasn't very good. And I feel like with Mike Brown, they've reached even another level offensively, especially late. They have a 125.6 offensive rating. In this game, you drop 132, and it's not just all Brunson. Brunson obviously was leading the charge, but you get a great game out of using Karl-Anthony Towns in a better way. You get a great game out of OG Anunoby. I feel like Mikal Bridges is having a really good season this year as well, after some people felt like maybe he disappointed a little bit last year. I feel like this Knicks team, like you mentioned, has a ton of talent. Their starting five has insane amount of talent, and they're led by a legit, I think, superstar guard in Jalen Brunson, with a lot of star talent around him. Them beating the Magic, I feel like I was expecting them to be able to beat the Magic here. It wasn't a shock to me. It's more so just a story of how they've progressed, because they didn't start off the season like the first week and a half. It wasn't the greatest start, but they've gotten really hot over the last month or so. And they're playing just as good as anybody not named, like you mentioned, the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're playing above their record, I'd say. Like, their record right now, they're a better team right now than their record would even depict right now. So I think the Knicks are in a great spot as they move on to the next round of the NBA Cup. I'm really looking forward to that Pistons-Knicks matchup. I want to see that rematch. I want to see what happens when they play. But
I will say the thing I find very interesting about the Knicks is they are, and this was obviously a neutral site game, so this doesn't count in either one of these categories. They're 13-1 at home, and they are 4-6 on the road. And I just find that to be a very interesting thing.
Well, you're going to need to finish that top one seed then. Go ahead and have that home court advantage all throughout the playoffs if that's going to be the case. And that's certainly possible for them. They're going to be battling in the East. The East is open. We'll see if they're able to get there. But coming up, we're going to play Are You Drinking the Kool-Aid? And we'll have some questions concerning Danny's Cleveland Cavaliers. Not the greatest start to the season for the Cavs. We'll talk about it. We'll ask a question concerning it and involving the Spurs and their title chances in the West. We'll talk about it coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Quo, New Year, New Systems. And this is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of running a business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Today's episode is brought to you again by Quo, spelled Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications. If you're ready to make your workday smoother and keep customers connected without the headaches, Quo makes upgrading your setup easier than ever. You can have calls, texts, and voicemails in one clean view, keeps everything organized, and helps you stay responsive. The AI summaries and call logging can make it feel like having an assistant keeping track of every single detail. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free. Plus, get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers with Quo. Then I got to tell you about another one of our sponsors, FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense ties up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly throughout a game. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast. So can you with FanDuel. Welcome back to Locked On NBA Game Night. I am your host, Khahil. I host the Locked On Pistons podcast. That is Danny. He hosts the Locked On Cavs podcast. And we are going to play a game of Are You Drinking the Kool-Aid? Danny, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do this, man.
Okay, let's start off with your Cleveland Cavaliers. They have not had a great start to the season. Are you drinking the Kool-Aid that this is going to be a lost season for the Cleveland Cavaliers?
I am not. I think it's far too early to say that. Like, this has certainly not been what everyone in Cleveland envisioned it to be. They've had a number of injury issues, and on Saturday afternoon, it was announced Evan Mobley is going to miss the next 2 to 4 weeks with a left calf strain, which is he's going to be the 13th guy on the Cavs to miss at least one game because of an injury this season. So I just think that is something that has really hampered them down. Now, they've not played the style of basketball that they need to play. They've not played hard enough. They've not played well enough defensively, but I still look at them and say, on paper, they've got as talented, if not more talented of a roster than anyone else in the Eastern Conference. However, basketball games are played on hardwood. They're not played on paper. So they need to find a way to put it together. I'm not ready to write them off because they're 15-11 to start the year. I think it's just worth remembering. Last year, the Indiana Pacers were 10-15 at this time, and they went on a run. And knowing how we have seen the Cavs play previously, not necessarily this year, there have been some glimpses this year. They've had a few games where it's like, oh yeah, that's what you're supposed to look like. Just knowing what they are capable of, even if we haven't seen it enough, leads me to believe that like it's not yet time to panic. But it's almost as if, to me, the case that is protecting the panic button has been lifted up, but we're not pressing the panic button yet. Had they lost to the Washington Wizards on Friday night, we might have been pressing the panic button. But I think that we're like, the panic button is there. We're looking at it. Our hand is near it, but we're not touching it quite yet.
All right, fair enough. We'll see how the Cavs season turns around. They are currently in the 7th spot in the Eastern Conference at 15-11. Now let's go over to the Western Conference. Let's bring back up the San Antonio Spurs. The San Antonio Spurs are 18-7. They are 4th in the Western Conference. Danny, I'm asking you, are you drinking the Kool-Aid that the Spurs are the biggest threat to the Oklahoma City Thunder in the West?
I am not drinking that Kool-Aid either, because for as good as Victor Wembanyama is, there's another guy in the Western Conference that plays the same position as him, plays center. He is a multi-time MVP. He is, I think, the best player in basketball right now. He is an NBA champion, and he is on a team that took this same Oklahoma City Thunder squad to 7 games in the postseason last year. That guy would be Nikola Jokic, and he doesn't play for the Spurs. He plays for the Denver Nuggets. So as long as Jokic is in Denver right now and at the top of his game, I think they're going to be the biggest threat to Oklahoma City. I don't know that lasts forever. I don't know that the Spurs are quite ready to make that jump this year, despite how impressive they were on Saturday night. I think that in the future, they will absolutely be the answer to this question. But for right now, I'm still sticking with Denver.
Fair enough. Like I said, San Antonio is 18-7. They won a lot of games without Wemby, and Wemby is back. So we'll see where they end up going from here as long as Wemby can stay healthy. Next question, we're going to go back to the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks are 18-7, second in the Eastern Conference, right behind my Detroit Pistons. The question I have for you, Danny, is, are you drinking the Kool-Aid that the New York Knicks should be the favorites in the Eastern Conference?
Right now, I am. I absolutely am. They are the team in the East that is healthiest and has proven the most in the playoffs, right? Like, we can't include Boston here because I don't think that this version of Boston has proven it. We can't include Indiana, who is nowhere near the playoffs right now, even though they went to the finals last year. I look at them right now as the team that everybody should be trying to chase down. I know that the Pistons have the best record in the Eastern Conference, but right now, if those two teams played in a 7-game series, I would pick the Knicks to win that series. I think a lot of people probably feel similar to me, and that's no slight against the Pistons. I just think that the Knicks have kind of been there, done that in ways that Detroit hasn't. And I think that even though Detroit went on that, what was it, a 14-game winning streak, 12-game winning streak, whatever it was, like that incredible run to start the season, the Knicks have been I think a more consistent team, if you will. They haven't had that super long winning streak that Detroit had to boost the record. So as of right now, I do think that they should be the favorites in the East. And I believe with our friends at FanDuel, they are.
Yes, they are. The Knicks, like we mentioned earlier, are 9-1 in their last 10 games, and they are heating up right now over the last month and really playing their best basketball. They are 2 games behind the Pistons from the first seed, but we are still very early in the season, and we will see how this continues to play out the rest of the season. The last question I have for you is this. We talked about the Oklahoma City Thunder earlier. Are you drinking the Kool-Aid that they will break the win record this season?
I am. I think that you're going to obviously lose games along the way. I think they're definitely going to get to 70 wins. I think 74 is possible. Now, the question I posed, I don't remember if it might have been last week on one of these shows, because I feel like I have filled in every single night of the week for a month on this, on game night here. But it was with John Corrales. I think it was on Tuesday night. Like, had they won the NBA Cup, would we have counted that? Like, let's say they would have finished the 82 game slate 73-9, but also won the NBA Cup, which we now know they can't do because they lost to the Spurs and they're eliminated. But had they done that and finished 73-9, I think we would have had to say, no, they actually won 74 games. I still think it's in play. I feel a little less sure of it after today, although I think them not having to play an 83rd game probably will be a benefit to them.
Yeah, it would have been funny to sit back and look at a season that you could maybe say you win the NBA Cup, you break the win record, you probably get the MVP, you win the Western Conference, and then you also win the championship. Would you all of a sudden we start talking about the NBA Cup differently? Like, would we say they just swept the season? Is that possible? Would we have just said they swept the NBA season?
I think we probably would have. And I wonder if that would have given more meaning to the NBA Cup, because you think of the two teams that have won it. This is obviously the third iteration of it. The Milwaukee Bucks won it last year, and their season did not end very well. And the year before that, the Los Angeles Lakers won it, and that season did not end very well. So I am interested to see if, obviously, San Antonio or New York is going to win the NBA Cup. I'm very interested to see if that continues along the trend that we've seen over the first couple of years of it.
Well, the Knicks fan base will certainly hope that isn't the case, as the East is wide open. I'm sure they're looking at this year as their year. But that's all we've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Gaming Night your first listen and tuning in with us after all of these wonderful games, especially this NBA Cup. I like the NBA Cup, by the way. Let me just throw that out there. I'm a fan of it. I think it's really good basketball. I had a lot of fun watching.
I wish that these games would not have been played at neutral sites. I think had that Magic Knicks game be played in New York or in Orlando, it would have been better. Like, I think that a good crowd makes it better. And starting that game at 2:30 on a Saturday afternoon in Las Vegas, I just don't know makes for the best thing. Imagine if that game would have been in Oklahoma City or in San Antonio too, in the nightcap. Like, I think that would have made it better. I do believe they're going to switch to that, where now only the final is going to be in Vegas in the coming years. But that's kind of my only gripe, is that I wish that these would have been played in front of home fans that actually care about those teams instead of just whoever can kind of be at that game.
I don't know, man. I kind of like the whole little Vegas vibe. I'm not gonna lie, the whole like flying. We're going to Vegas. Like, I don't know. It just sounds cool, man. I don't know, but I feel
you can go to Vegas anytime. Jump on a plane. It's not hard.
I feel what you're saying. All right, thank you guys. Head over to Locked On NBA Game Night. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. I'm Koo, host of Locked On Pistons podcast. That's Danny, host of Locked On Cavs podcast. You can find us over there. And until next time, stay safe out there and peace out, everybody.